Welcome to Movers and Shakers on JTV. Today we're joined by Simon Johnson. Simon has operated at the highest level of media and sports law for over 20 years. He was the senior Premier League lawyer, and for 4 years he worked on the England 2018 FIFA bid. More recently, Simon has swapped football for Jewish politics, as he is chief executive of the Jewish Leadership Council, which acts as an umbrella body for the Jewish community. Thank you for joining us, Simon.
Afternoon.
Can I start by asking, when did your career in sports law begin?
Well, I qualified as a lawyer and I joined a firm that specialised in media and entertainment law. And while I was there, it was just at the start of the Premier League when there was coming to be more money into football. And the firm that I was working with, which had an expertise in media, decided to try and move into sport. So I actually was a solicitor specialising in sports law, and we acted for the Premier League and other governing bodies, and then I moved from there into ITV, and that was how I really established my reputation for negotiating television deals in sport. So that was how it all started.
And I think one of the things that you're most well known for is working on the England 2018 FIFA bid. I'm sure that was exciting, fascinating and somewhat controversial. Can you share one of your or some of your most memorable experiences?
Well, you're right, it certainly was memorable, and it's proved to be quite controversial. I mean, here we are in 2016 and people are still discussing a bid that ended in 2010. For me, I will never really forget the atmosphere that was in the country around the time of the vote on the 2nd of December. We were all in Zurich with Prince William, with the Prime Minister David Cameron, with David Beckham, with lots of footballers and celebrities. And we could just sense that the mood in the country was completely behind the World Cup bid. For some reason, we'd allowed the whole country to believe that we had a very good chance of winning. And you could, even sitting in Zurich, you could sense that the whole country was behind us. And so when we discovered just before they announced the vote that not only had we not won, but we'd been knocked out in the first round, that feeling of disappointment was, I still remember it now.
And you talk about Prince William, David Cameron, David Beckham. What was it like to work alongside them?
Well, it was an honour to work alongside Prince William. It was a privilege to work alongside the Prime Minister, and it was a pleasure to work alongside David Beckham. In each of their different ways, they brought a tremendous amount of passion to the bid, and truly they threw themselves into supporting our World Cup bid right at the final moment. And I think what was really interesting, that there were staff members like myself, and then the future king, the Prime Minister, one of the most famous footballers in the world, all willing to be part of the same team, and we really felt a team spirit in there. And unfortunately, as events have turned out, it's proved to be extremely controversial.
And you talk about when you found out that you hadn't won the bid, you'd been knocked out at the first stages. With the benefit of hindsight, perhaps we could say that the bid was doomed from the start. Could you expand on the somewhat bizarre choice to give the 2022 bid to Qatar and also the 2018 bid which went to Russia?
Well, the bid certainly wasn't doomed from the start, in the sense of the signals and the indications that we were being given by FIFA. We were being told that this would be the most fair, the most objective, the most transparent bidding process there'd been, and that they would require more information from the bidders than ever before. And that's what happened. They were also indicating to us that they wanted to perhaps make a safe choice in 2018 to a country like England, where they had the chance to make a lot of money commercially, where the stadiums were built, so that they could take more of a chance in 2022. So all through the process, we were being given the indications that ours was a strong bid, and we were determined to make it a very strong technical bid. When we discovered that losing to Russia, I think in its own would have been fine. Russia's had a very credible bid. What I think made it evident that this was the least open, the least transparent, the least honest of the bidding processes was the fact that we got knocked out in the first round. We were the best bid according to FIFA's inspectors. And then when they awarded the World Cup to Qatar in 2022, which FIFA's own inspectors had said was a high-risk bid, and that really indicated that the executive committee shouldn't vote for it. So actually what we've discovered now is that the process was corrupt all the way through. That corruption only revealed itself right at the end.
So you touch on the notion of corruption. Is FIFA corrupt?
Well, that executive committee that voted on the World Cup bid, there were 24 of them. 12 of them have either been suspended from FIFA or arrested or charged for reasons of corruption. And that's 6 years after the event, without all the information yet having come out. So there's no question that that executive committee, over 50% of it, was corrupt. The bidding process was corrupt. And in the last few weeks, FIFA's president, secretary general, and the president of UEFA have all been banned for life. So there's a real problem at the heart of FIFA. And it's a real shame, I think, for everybody in this country that those problems have come out because of a bidding process that we were involved in.
And at the heart of FIFA, you mean the individuals, because you talk about the executive committee, you mean those specific individuals?
Yes, the people who were on the executive committee charged with running the sport, together with the most senior paid official, the Secretary General, all have been suspended for various things relating to corrupt practices. That is the sign of an organisation in crisis that cannot deny that corruption has been at the very heart of it for a number of years.
So you say that the process was the least open and the least honest. Do you think that the bid will be rerun, and do you think that Qatar will end up hosting the 2022 games?
Well, I think unfortunately we're too late to rerun the bid for 2018. I mean, the Russia World Cup has effectively started now that they've had the preliminary draw. And so I don't think they will rerun that. And even though I think they should rerun the bid for Qatar in 2022, again, I don't think they will. Qatar has spent hundreds of millions of dollars on building stadiums. And I think that if they withdraw the World Cup from Qatar or invite the bidding again, I think Qatar will sue FIFA. And I think that will cost them, FIFA, a lot of money. What I think should happen, though, and I think this is very important, is that the losing bidders for 2018 and 2022 should be compensated by FIFA. So the FA, we spent nearly £20 million on our bid, and it's been proved that we were participating in a corrupt process. And therefore I would suggest that the FA should be suing FIFA, and I think they should expect to be able to recover a good proportion of what they spent on their bid. And I think for FIFA, it'll be cheaper for them to pay off the losing bidders than it will be to take it away from Qatar.
Now, if we step aside from FIFA and we talk about your Judaism, to what extent has your Jewish philosophy impacted your business life to date?
Well, there's a number of values that I've been brought up with that have been very important to me. Number one is that people should always be able to trust you and to trust your word. That if you shake hands on a deal with somebody, you're going to see it through. And that's something that we applied a lot, and I applied a lot in my time in television and in sport. I think respect for the rule of law and for the country that you live in and playing fairly by the rules is something that I've always done. It was an important part of my time as a lawyer, an important part of my time at ITV and in the sports industry. I think the other thing that's been important, and I was privileged when I worked at the FA to be able to do this, is that Israel plays a very important part in our lives as Jews, and it certainly does for me. And when I was at the FA, one of the things I most enjoyed doing was when England played Israel in 2 qualifying matches for the 2008 European Championships. I was able to be a central part of the FA's delegation to Israel, and I was able to stand on the touchline before the game at Wembley and sing both national anthems. That's the first and only time I'll have sung both national anthems at a game, and it was probably one of the proudest moments of my career.
And more recently, the Jewish Leadership Council, you've become chief executive. What attracted you to the role of chief executive of the JLC?
Well, I was always interested in trying to see whether there was something I could do for the Jewish community, to try and use the skills and the experience that I'd gathered during my career for the benefit of the Jewish community. Now, by a quirk of fate, an opportunity came up, and somebody that I worked with asked me if I'd be interested in talking to them about potentially taking the role. That was in October of 2013, so I've been doing the job now for just over 2 and a bit years, and I've thoroughly enjoyed it because I've been in and around the community for a long time, and to be able to deal with government relations, with strategy, with communications, with dealing with politics of the community, and hoping to think strategically about what the Jewish community needs to thrive and be vibrant, safe and secure for the next 20 to 30 years. I found it a really fascinating challenge, and I'm enjoying it.
And I know that you're off to your annual meeting with the Prime Minister today, the JLC meeting. So can I ask one final question? For any young aspiring businessmen or women, what is the most important piece of advice that you can give and that you have learned?
Thank you for mentioning our Prime Minister meeting, because as soon as we've finished, I'm going off there. The most important thing I think I've learnt is that you should always take an approach to work that is humble. You should always be prepared to listen. You should always accept that although you might have made a decision that you think is right, not everybody else will agree that it's right, and you should be able to be prepared to listen to other people's views and to respect them. I think it's really important in the world of work that nobody thinks that they have all the answers. That the important thing is that you should always look to try and learn to make your experience better, and that you should be looking to make sure that the next time you deal with the same issue, you're better at it because of the last time you dealt with it. So let's see, I've tried to apply that through my career, and that would be something I would say to anybody wanting to start out in any business. Always be prepared to learn from the people who are around you, however much you think you might know it.
Simon Johnson, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.